Hello and welcome back to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm an adult ADD and ADHD productivity coach, and I'm also the founder and director of ADDclasses.com. And at ADDclasses.com, we provide virtual support and education to people affected by ADD and ADHD. We offer free webinars. We have an extensive ADD audio library with more than 175 courses, and we also offer more in-depth support programs. You can learn more about ADDclasses.com and sign up for a free webinar by going to ADDclasses.com. And with that, I would like to welcome back Laura Rolands to ADHD Support Talk Radio. In just a moment, we're going to be talking about juggling competing assignments. But before we get started talking about the topic, Laura, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself and how to get in touch with you after they listen to today's show?
Absolutely. Thanks, Tara. It's great to be back. And as Tara said, I'm Laura Rolands. I'm an ADHD coach, and my website is myattentioncoach.com. And I'm very passionate about helping people manage their time and increase their productivity, and actually teach a time management intensive course at ADD Classes, usually a couple times a year. And I also, on my website, I have a time management guide that you can download for free if you're interested. And if you want to email me, it's Laura, Laura, at myattentioncoach.com.
I'm so glad to have you back on. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about juggling different assignments. And you and I were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, that this is a huge issue. And I know this is one of the issues that I always hear from clients is prioritizing. I have so much going on. How do I juggle it? How do I know what to start with? And there's just so much overwhelm, anxiety, frustration, and stress associated with it. So this is definitely a topic I'm sure a lot of my listeners can relate to. So where would you like to begin when it comes to this discussion, Laura?
Well, I really thought it would be a good place to start with just talking about how inundated everybody is with assignments, requests, and other inputs all day long. Mm-hmm. And I think what happens is, and I think technology is a huge part of this, and you add ADD on top of it, and it magnifies the impact. But, we feel so connected to our email. We feel so connected to our phone, and then there's social media. And then if you're in an office environment or even just a lot of phone contact with customers or coworkers, you don't ever stop. And it can just be overwhelming if you don't at least take some pauses during the day and at least try to keep track of what's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it, and you were talking about like an office situation. I work from home. I'm by myself most of the day. I don't talk on the phone that much unless it's like a scheduled call. So I can't imagine how frustrating it is for somebody who works in an office setting and has all the social media and website stuff. And that's what I have. So they have that. In addition, they have the people. There are so many demands. I'm just getting overwhelmed just thinking about what some people are going through on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think when you throw ADD on top of just the super fast-paced, connected world we're living in, and I think about working memory, and it's you think about maybe 20 years ago, and someone might come by your desk, or you might get a request, or someone might call. And back then, we probably had a lot better chance of remembering that request 2 hours later. But now with everything coming in, and then if there's any challenges with your working memory or that short-term memory, you might think, oh, yeah, I'll remember that. Sure, I'll do that right after lunch. and my experience is that no, you won't. And I think it's one of those really important things to think about from the standpoint of just be aware of it and figure out a way to just at least capture what your commitments are and what you're saying that you're going to do. Because if you say, oh, I'll do that right after lunch, there's a high probability, I don't know the percentage, but there's a high probability you're going to forget. And it's interesting because we're sitting here talking. I was at lunch with someone yesterday, and I did that exact thing. And I'm sitting here now, and I need to write myself a note because I never sent the person what it was that I want to send them. It will take me 2 minutes to send it. It's not a big deal to send it, but it's that remembering and just keeping track of it. That's like the first step. You know, you talk about prioritizing. That's another big challenge, but we can't even get it done if we don't remember that we were supposed to do it.
Yeah, and you had that intention of doing it, and something else caught your attention, bombarded you. So and you thought of it now. I'm guessing there are some people that just it never registers to begin with because they had other things going on. So that can really get in the way of being, productive at work or any place else, and also have some, I'd say, severe consequences if you're not capturing it or writing it down.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the big thing, right? If it's a coworker that, oh, I'll share that information with you, that's one thing. But if it's your boss, or if you're, if you own a business, if it's your customer, and it's, oh, that was that revenue generating thing, or that was the boss's really big priority, had a big impact to the company or a project or something like that. Yeah, it's just a huge consequence. And I think there can be a tendency, I think one of the strengths that someone, with ADD or ADHD has is being able to fight fires and go with the flow. And that's awesome. But if you don't at least track what's coming in, then it's like you can just get overwhelmed and then you get frozen. And you and I have talked about that before. And it's just, to me, I just feel so bad for people when they get frozen like that, because, I'm always encouraging them, well, at least take a step towards something. But if you don't even know what it is you need to do, you can't even juggle those competing assignments.
And sometimes we will track it or write it down, and we may not write it down in the best place that we could find 10 minutes later. I mean, it was just the other day, I had like this little memo pad that I was writing stuff down on it, and I wrote stuff down. It was important. I went to look back, and it was like I couldn't find it. It was me not, looking, not remembering what color I wrote in, but it was like something like that. It took me like 10 minutes. I was frustrated, but that type of thing happens to people on a daily basis. So it's like, make sure when you're capturing it, like whether it's in a notebook or an electronic place, that you're going to be able to locate it and find it. I mean, there are people that will save files, not remember what they named the file, and can't even search for it because they had like a weird name. So it's like, it's important to make sure when you capture it and write it down that you can find it when you need it.
Yeah, that's so huge. And I'm a big fan of trying to have just one place where you keep everything. Yes. And sometimes that's possible and sometimes that's not. And like you said, with your memo pad, looking for it, sometimes I find too, like a bigger planner that one has more room to write in, and two is harder to lose in your stuff, whether it's in a bag or a briefcase or on your desk. That can help sometimes too.
So, not writing things down or not capturing it in the best way is something that gets in the way. What's another thing that you found gets in the way for being able to juggle your priorities and items?
I think another big issue is just not being able to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, I guess there's a few pieces to setting boundaries, and I had a previous boss who she always talked about stay in your lane, and almost like if you think of it like you're swimming a race and you want to make sure you stay in your swim lane, and if you're one who gets excited about an assignment, or maybe it's hard for you to say no, you can sometimes get outside of your lane because it's like, oh, well, I think that needs to be done, and you know what, I'll just go do it.
Yeah.
And you need to, it's hard because you want to be helpful. I mean, we want to help each other, but if I'm helping you do your job to the detriment of my job, then someone's going to call me to the carpet for my performance. And maybe you like my help, or maybe I got in your way. There's collaboration, which is wonderful, but I think having those kinds of boundaries around the type of work you're doing, and make sure if you're going outside of your lane, to really think through it and think, okay, is this, like, do I have a purpose for this? Because I think if you don't set that work-related boundary, I think it can cause trouble. And then the other boundary that I think of a lot of time is just that and it's a fuzzy boundary, but that boundary between work and personal life. And if you're working, if you're trying to work extra hours to catch up, or if you're, trying to do emails while you're sitting with your family or sitting with your friends while you're out, you're not giving yourself that full advantage of that friendship or that relationship. And you're also, again, you're not giving yourself that boundary away from work, that it's just, again, it leads to that overwhelm, and we think it's going to help us juggle those competing assignments, but I think in the long run it hurts us if that's a sustained effort.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts your personal life, it hurts your professional life, so it hurts you individually. And I think a lot of people do have that mindset. It's, oh, I didn't work hard enough at work, or I'm going to catch up, and they bring it home, or even if they're just discussing their work life at home. I mean, that's like a boundary issue too. And it really, we need those breaks. You need to pause. You need to dismiss and forget about work and not focus on work, so you can be better at it when you shift your attention back to work mode.
Right, exactly. And even, Al, and I'm guilty of this one too, where you think, oh, well, I'm going to work through lunch because I'm going to get this done. And you don't get the refresh from a lunch break, even if it's 20 minutes. I'm not saying, everyone has to go take an hour-long lunch break. And then you get hungry at the, in the middle of the afternoon. And so then if you're hungry, I don't think your brain can work as properly as you need it to, especially when you're overwhelmed with all this work stuff. So I think it just, again, we try to push past something, but then in the long run, it ends up not being helpful.
I know people feel guilty about taking a break or taking a lunch, and self-care is so essential to being productive and having your memory work and all that people don't often give themselves that permission to take that break and take care of themselves so they can do their job better, or be a better friend, or be a better spouse. And it's just, I really wish people would realize that you need to take care of yourself and take those breaks. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a full hour lunch. It could be 20 minutes, or if someone's not taking a lunch at all, maybe it's 10 minutes to start with. So I mean, that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess I would say probably the biggest barrier to like not being able to juggle all those competing assignments is not having somewhere where you keep track of all those assignments. And you mentioned prioritizing, and that's definitely part of it. But if you don't have somewhere to keep track of it and capture it, you don't even have a chance of prioritizing. And so I think that's a huge piece. And and I, like, personally, I prefer to keep it on paper. There's something for me that's, I don't know if it's almost therapeutic or it helps my memory with things that I need to do. But, other people prefer, there's different apps there. You could do just an easy spreadsheet. But having some way that you're going to commit to at least try to keep track of things, you're going to help yourself make progress at least.
And people who don't like to write down, you can, take out your phone and do a voice memo, just something to get it out of your head and be able to find it again and, realize, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. Because like you were saying with prioritizing, some of us don't even know what we're meant to do or what we committed to. How can we prioritize when we can't find or we don't remember the items that we want to do or need to do?
Yep, exactly.
So, Laura, is there anything today that you didn't bring up about competing assignments that you feel is important?
No, I think we really covered on the high points. There is, earlier I had mentioned my time management guide, and I do have a guide also on my website to help you choose your planning system. And so if anyone's interested in that, they could always go check that out on my website as well. It's free and available to download. And it's been updated over the years, but it always seems to be a really popular tool on my website.
Yes. And I know that's a question I always see is, what is the best planner? So you have a way to, because it's not a cut and dry answer, you have a way to help people realize what the best planner is for them or what system is best for them.
Yeah. I wish I could design the best planner, but I don't think there is one.
No, we're all different. We all have different needs. Even if we all have ADHD, we have other things going on to take into account.
Exactly. Yep, I agree.
Okay. So, Laura, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. And before we get going, could you just give out your website address once again?
Absolutely. It is myattentioncoach.com, and you can always email me at laura@myattentioncoach.com. And thanks for having me on.
Okay. And thank you so much for listening to ADHD Support Talk Radio. And be sure to stop by our new website at ADHDSupportTalk.com. Thanks again.